here with the Rundown Real Estate Podcast. Dante, myself, and then David Alex. We're here at the All-American Real Estate team with Dalton Wade. We have a guest joining us today to answer some questions on the inspection side of a contract transaction. We have Terry here. Terry, let's introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Terry Gilbert with AHS Home Inspection. I'm the owner, the operator. So it's just a one-man show. And then also with my wife, she's a part of the team. She does the inside, I do the outside.
Awesome.
Both licensed inspectors. I've been licensed for about 8 years and have approximately almost 30 years experience in construction.
Oh, so you've seen a lot of situations, a lot of experience.
I've seen a lot of changes in construction from all the way back to Hurricane Andrew with the big changes, and then Hurricane Charlie, and the big changes that will probably come because of Eden.
Yeah. Wow. Well, David, if you want to start us off with the first question.
Sure, yeah. So we're doing like a home buyer series, and so we wanted to have you on and kind of answer some questions about the home inspection. The first being, why would somebody want to get a home inspection? Why would that be a good idea for them?
The biggest thing with home inspections is a lot of buyers think they know codes, requirements. They think they catch a lot of things, but there could be small details. So the biggest thing is have a detailed professional eye, somebody that's done these type of inspections, who's done a lot of construction. And it's not always the contractors that are the best inspectors, because they look out for their, I guess, the fiduciary, the financial side of it for them. They're looking for money. So they're not actually looking for problems. Whereas me, I have no vested interest. I have no monetary interest other than the contract that I hold with the buyer of the home. So, and it's also the experience. So we can find things, a lot of times, almost every time, we find issues that even contractors, I've been hired by contractors to come and look at their house, that they can't find. So it's a really important first step. It can make or break the decision on buying the house, because a little crack in the wall may be something bigger than what a lot of people might think, or the way that the cracks are directed, where one inspector could say, or one contractor say, that's not a big issue. We kind of dig down into it and try to find the problem. So that gives the buyer I guess you would say, an educated option. And usually we're the first inspection. You guys could verify that, but we're normally the first inspection that continues the process of the contract. Whatever, not always what we say goes, but what we make recommendations on, then they can make that informed decision if they want to continue to move forward or back out and go look for the next place.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you brought that up.
Inspections that's, to me, it's the most important next to a termite inspection.
Right, because you want to know what you're getting yourself into when you do buy that.
Right.
I've never thought about it from that aspect when you mentioned the money. You are right, though. A lot of people, they'll use an inspection to kind of gain money on the buyer's side, right? To gain money back, they can't point things out. But you are not there to do that. You're there to just simply point out the issue, not help them get more items off.
Right. I'm not there for the buyer to save money. Well, I guess I am there for the buyer to save money so they can back out, so they don't make a bad investment. I'm also not there to point out, it's a negotiating tool, but at the same time, it's an informational tool or an educational tool for the buyer. And building contractors they're more financial for their gain. So if they came in, they can point out a lot of issues, and they're counting up the dollars they can make if they do a remodel on the house, or if they do a repair on the house when they look at it. So sometimes they're more biased because it's their pocketbook or their wallet that's going to be affected, where bottom line, I'm not financially affected by it.
You're impartial to the whole process.
Right. I'm there to give them options, to give them problems, and they can make that decision. And I'm not going to be the guy doing the work on the house. So it's more of an informed decision for them.
That makes sense.
Okay. Now, this is more of a basic question for maybe the people that aren't as educated or haven't been through a transaction before or done an inspection. What is included in inspection, the basic terms? And then also, some people have heard the terms 4-point, wind mitt. Just touch briefly on what those are and what the differences are. And
so your basic home inspection is the purchase of the home. The inspections we include, we do 100% top to bottom comprehensive inspection. We test the systems and we try to push them, and I've even pushed and pulled to try to break things if I see something loose on the wall or something that's going to happen. So it's a detailed fine-tooth comb. Obviously, there's some homes that buyers are going into that they know there's a lot of cosmetic issues, broken cabinet doors. So we notate those, but what we're looking for are the problems in the plumbing, the problems in the electrical, the roof, AC, foundation, windows, things like that. With reference to 4-point and wind mitt, a 4-point is a really basic home inspection, but the only thing we're really checking are electrical, plumbing, air conditioning, and roofing. And those are insurance inspections. And in Florida, most homes over 10 years old have to have a 4-point, or a home that has had a roof replaced, even if it's a year old. A lot of times an insurance company will require that 4-point, even if it's a year old, still under some kind of a warranty because the roof has been replaced. And at that point, they want to make sure certain codes are met, nail patterns in the attic. And then as part of it, we still have to continue on. And even if a water heater is a year old, everything else, we have to notate those and document those. And the insurance uses that as documentation so that they know the house was in good condition when I did the inspection and when they bind the policy. Otherwise, somebody could say, yeah, we're going to put insurance on your home, but they've got a broken air conditioner, a leaky pipe, and a leaky roof, and then turn around a month later and file a claim that my roof's leaking and the whole house flooded. Now you have to pay out a $40,000 claim. So it's the insurance, that 4-point is insurance company protection. It's their protection and their requirement. Wind mitigation is something required by Florida law that the insurance companies have to give you a discount for certain build features. When the roof is put down on an older home way back before Hurricane Charlie, they used staples. Well, they figured out that all those roof panels were coming up, so they increased the nails, and it had to be what's called an 8D ring shank nail that's 3.5 inches long, and the nail patterns have to be different. So I have to get up there, document those nail patterns, and if they have it every 12 inches, they get a certain discount, but if it's every 6 inches, their discount increases on that nail pattern. And then we have to verify how the trusses are strapped down. Does it have what we call a third nail? That's the big question everybody says. Do we have the third nail? Because there's a larger discount for a third nail. And homes built in the 80s and early 90s had 2 nails because builders were cutting corners. Because after about 2004, they're not required to do 2 or more than 2 nails until 2000, I think it's 2012, but I can't be quoted for that for sure on that code. But as the strap increases, more nails, so do the premiums on the wind side. And the wind portion of your insurance is your most expensive portion of your insurance next to flood, if you're in a flood zone. So those 2 4-point wind met are just insurance-only inspections. We do perform those on a house purchase. Say if the buyer knows he's going to be gutting the entire house, but it's the insurance to bind a policy will still require those 2. So we have to just go in those 2. And it's a real basic, quick inspection. It takes 30, 45 minutes. Document the items, photographs.
I always tell my clients ahead of time, I kind of warn them, like, hey, you're hiring a home inspector. He's going to give you like 100 pages of stuff that's wrong with the house. So ask him what the major concerns are. So what would be the major concerns in a home buyer should look for?
So the biggest thing, and I usually, after every home inspection, if the buyer's there with us, I try to kind of give them a quick 30,000-foot view and name the big things. But I don't name everything that might be in the report, because you're right. My reports can be anywhere from 50 to 75 pages, tons of pictures, depending on the condition of the home. So if it's really bad, I mean, this report can get huge. But the largest things are your big ticket items. Number one being roofs. Roofs in Florida are the most important thing. The construction of them, how well they're still fastened, and the age of them. Most insurance companies on what's called a dimensional composite shingle, which is a lot of people call them architectural shingle roofs. They give them, even though the roofer sold them a 50-year roof with a 50-year warranty, Florida insurance companies see 20 years. 20 years is the cut. So even if I walk up there and look at that roof, I can extend the life if I go up there and it looks that way. But, a roof can cost, I think, at minimum for a 1,000 square foot home, probably now about $14,000 to replace the roof. So that's your big ticket item that you want. You got to have the life on that roof. Most insurance companies are 5 years. If it doesn't have 5 years, and I date that based on what I see up top, whether it's granule loss or if it's cracked shingles, peeled shingles, or even missing shingles. Then obviously metal roofs and clay roofs, they extend the life a little bit more, 30 years. I think they've decreased everything to 30 years now. The second big ticket item that people are going to pay a lot of money for is your air conditioning system. The HVAC system can range from a low end to a high end, anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 for a new air conditioning system, up to about $12,000, $13,000. So when you add those 2 together, those are the 2 biggest. You could spend out of pocket $30,000, $35,000 easily on a new roof and an HVAC. So, and I'll warn everybody, and HVAC systems, their life expectancy is only about 8 to 14 years on the new systems. If I see an old system in the house and it's a 2002, it's 20-something years old, but it's probably going to last a little longer because they were built better. They were built to last, and now they're, because of all, and I don't know why, but it's, either the quality of work or the regulations of the energy efficiency that they have to be. Everything has to burn electricity, but work just as hard to cool a house. So I think, those are the biggest. And again, those kind of fall into that 4-point for the insurance. The insurance wants to know the air conditioner and the roof condition. And then third would be the plumbing in the house. Some homes have copper. They use copper up in the, from the 40s all the way up to the 80s. But the copper in the 70s or the 80s was a thinner wall copper, so it started to fail. So I always make note to people that you still have copper in your house, and a replumb could be $15,000, roughly, give or take. After the 90s, they went to a CPVC, which is a good pipe, but CPVC has rubber in it, and as it ages, the rubber deteriorates and it becomes brittle. Even a bump under the sink could actually shatter CPVC. So they went to a PEX, which is that plastic flexible pipe.
Yeah.
But back in the early 2000s, late 90s, they went to a PEX. They went to a gray PEX, which fails, and there was a lawsuit against them. I still find houses like that. And even in the early 2000s, they had a PEX that failed. Now, everything else is new generation. So those are the big things I want to, those three things are the major items that I know. I tell them if I see leaks, if I see corrosion, that they may have problems with these and your system may fail. So it might be an expense you're going to have. David and Dante, you probably can both attest. Any inspectors walked out of a house, and the day after closing, they move in, the air conditioner goes out.
Yeah.
Lovingly,
We've had some stories.
Yep.
I mean,
I actually had one just like you said. It was an old one. It was like 25 years old, but it was still pumping cold air and it was working great. And then it went out like 2 days after closing.
Yeah. And, and so that kind of leads me to people. Home warranties, a home warranty company that'll cover old systems is after an inspection is the second most valuable thing you can purchase for your first year, because that's when everything breaks. No matter if it's a used car, new home, used home, that first year, that warranty can help you offset some of those expenses. Some of them with an inspection report, they'll give you a year or two on the roof, even if it leaks and it was an older roof, they might depreciate. Meaning if it's a $15,000 roof, they'll cover $8,000 of it or something like that. But home warranties, I think, are very important for home buyers. Just firm believer.
Especially now that they have some more leverage on the negotiation side. Why not negotiate that the seller to buy you a home warranty for at least a year or two?
Yeah, and I'm starting to see that more. I've done a couple of inspections over the last month where the buyer told me, they said, well, they bought a full home inspection. And it covers everything. It covers the washer, dryer, air conditioner, everything. And I'm like, well, good, because you have a 12-year-old air conditioner.
Yeah.
It go out in a year. So you need it. And if you can extend it, it's worth the $600, $800 you're going to pay, because an AC can cost $12,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's just like insurance.
They're important, especially in Florida with this heat. You got to have the AC.
Well, yeah, our air conditioners work probably 80% harder than any other place in the country. So it's a constant. Even, I freeze in the winter, but people down here run their air conditioners all winter long. They just keep them going, trying to keep the house cool.
I think we could all agree that definitely the roofs over the past couple of years have been the biggest issue, especially with insurance and how strict they're getting.
Yes.
They've been nightmares to work with, obviously, but I can understand from their side that they're covering their butts.
Well, yeah, they have to cover themselves, because a roof leak can be a $40,000, $50,000 claim. I mean, if it floods the entire house during the next hurricane, or when the next hurricane comes.
And on the buying side, or even on the selling side, during those hurricane times, the roof cost was astronomical. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were charging crazy prices for it. I saw some tile roofs for almost $100,000.
Yeah, it was before Hurricane Ian. I knew a roof the guy had just had it put on. It was, he said he spent $8,000. Nice roof. It was a 50-year shingle. And he lost part of that roof, but the insurance company went ahead and paid to redo the whole thing, because Florida has some laws about the 25% rule on losing a roof. So they replaced the whole roof again, but it was a $16,000 roof 2 months later.
Wow.
So it almost doubled. They actually did double. It did double in cost in those couple of months, and the shingles didn't go up that much. But I don't know what the reason is, but now that's the new, I guess I hate to use the word, the new normal, the way these prices have gone up.
Well, it's funny how important roofs are, and especially those structural components to buyers, is because on the listing side, how many listings do you see, David, now where the roof is in big black bold letters?
Yeah.
And the listing description, new roof. Everybody has a new roof now, because they know how important it is, right? Especially for those buyers that are financing. Because once you have a damaged roof, you're pretty much cut out, 85% of your buyer pool, because now you're just down to cash. And that's if they're willing to fix the roof when they bought it.
Yeah.
So that's when our David and I services come in. We start negotiating. Okay, maybe you do a contract in place to have the roof in place after closing, do something like that, ask for a whole bag or something like that.
Right. Right.
But I always, you have buyers that look and say, hey, listen, look for a roof that's been replaced in the past 5 years, or that's in good standing.
Which down in the Port Charlotte area, that's probably 90% now, I'm guessing. Almost every house I go to now is new roof, or I'm going there because somebody's shopping insurance and they need a new inspection because those inspections are only good for 1 year. So they're shopping insurance. I had a new roof 3 years ago. I had this, I had windows, impact glass, but I
I'm
got
sure
insurance.
it's going to be that new wave since they got hit the most recent hurricane. I have some clients out there that are probably going to be replacing their roof soon. Being replaced, and they got hit pretty good with those outer bands.
How do you think Florida homes are different from northern homes? Because I know a lot of people come down from up north, they buy a summer home, or I'm sorry, a winter home, or they just get a second property, or maybe they're relocating for retirement. What do you see as the biggest differences? I'm assuming building materials, right?
A lot of the building materials. A lot of people up north have never seen a home built out of cinder block the way that we build them. So, and it's not required to be a cinder block home, but obviously cinder block homes are more stable once because they backfill them with, they call it mud, but it's basically concrete down in all the cavities with rebar to hold the walls up. That's one of our biggest things. And two, when you do concrete, we're not trying to hold heat into the house like up north. Up north, they're trying to keep heat in the house. So we're trying to keep the heat out of the house 75% of the season or 75% of the year. So probably 9-10 months a year, we're keeping heat out. So they build them a cinder block. They're stronger, obviously, withstand the winds better. So I think that's the biggest thing. The next biggest thing, homes up north, they're 2x6 wood construction. They have more insulation in the walls. And again, that comes back to their holding the heat in. They worry about the heat going out. We worry about the heat coming in. Windows. Down here in South Florida now, it's either a requirement that the windows are impact glass or storm shutters, which increases the price of a home because an impact window is probably 3 times the price of a regular window. Builders can't go with the metal panels, but everybody looks for impact glass now. The insulation in the attic, we don't have as much insulation in the attic as a lot of homes, and I don't know why we don't insulate as much, but I'm assuming it's the same thing, heat gain, heat loss for up there. But our construction methods, in the north, for the roofs, everybody worries about snow load. So they want to make sure the snow comes off on the way to the roof. Florida, our biggest concern is wind load, which it pushes up. So we want to worry how much wind's going to come in, hit those soffits, come up, and can it lift the roof off? People will notice now the new home's built, you might have a 12-inch soffit over the edge of the house. In the 80s, we had 16 2 feet hanging off, so you got to hide out in the garage while it's pouring down rain and stay dry. Now you have almost nothing there. And that's for the wind. That's for our high winds and it can lift the roof off. Our foundations are a little bit different. Everybody pours a slab, but they have to worry about a freeze line, so they have deeper footers up north. We're more planted on sand, so it's a little bit different compaction, bringing something in that'll compact and hold. And then people use a lot of stem walls here, which allows you to raise your house up out of the flood zone without having your whole yard look like this going up to the house where you can't even mow the lawn around your house. So they do a stem wall, so your yard's a little more flat around. But then your yard floods because you're in a flood zone.
I've had a lot of people talk about that lately. There'll be a slightly older home and then a new home next to it, and it's 3 feet higher than it, so all the water drains.
Yes. The new homes,
Way
it's a big savings to do a slab, what they call slab on grade, where they build the dirt up, mound it, pack it down, and then pour a big slab. Whereas the stem wall, they bring it in, dig a footer, they put center blocks, and maybe bring it up 6 feet, 5 feet, whatever, backfill it with dirt, and then concrete. And then they just bring the dirt a little bit up around the stem wall. So your yards aren't like this. You're not around the lawnmower sideways.
Yeah.
And yeah, people do gripe. But then, Port Charlotte, Northport, we're known for our septic tanks. So we still have to have that big mountain in the front yard with all the slope sides because of the way that it's required to get us up out of the water table, because you still have to be able to saturate it. So that's another big difference too. Up north, a septic field up north could be a quarter of an acre, the drain field, because they don't have the sand that we have. Where here in Florida, most homes, 100 square feet, a 10 by 10 area is your entire drain field with a tank next to it. So that's why we're able to build a home on a quarter acre lot and have a septic tank. It wouldn't be possible in most places up north without in South Florida, mid Florida.
Well, some of the northern states too that I've been to, like I know North Carolina, maybe South Carolina, they build on clay. They have like that clay material under the ground. It makes it a little harder to.
Yeah, it's clay and rough, so it won't. I mean, it's solid. You have to come in there with heavy machinery just to level a lot, as opposed
Yeah.
to down here. Down here, everything we have here is sand with maybe a little bit of clay mixed in, and then limestone. So we're not on the same base as they are up north. The substrate is not as strong here as it is north. And that's why sometimes you'll get foundational issues when somebody pours what's called a slab on grade, because sand washes out and then they get a crack on the corner of the house. And that's something big we check for, especially on the older homes. We've actually been finding a lot of that lately. I found 4 houses in the last probably 60 days that have cracked foundations, selling foundations, and they're going to have to come in and put piers into the house. So that kind of comes back to the importance of a home inspection. If we see that, I may be wrong. It's not an issue, but I always recommend that a structural engineer comes in at that point, and they're the final say so to go, there's structural issues or there are not any structural issues. Because that could range anywhere from a ten to $40,000 repair.
Yeah, because if it's a foundation, they have to dig in, right?
They have to actually dig up under the foundation, then put piers in the ground and get solid ground or limestone, which could be 30 feet, filled out with concrete, and then put another tube to come up and grab the slab, and then they've got to backfill all that. Or they can bore through the original slab and pour down that way. But it can be a big ordeal, a really big ordeal.
While we're on the topic of cracks, and it's not a question we had planned for today, but I want to bring it up because it is a common thing. A lot of home buyers here in Florida, they see cracking in the stucco or in the driveway or in the garage, especially.
Yeah.
How concerned should they be? I mean, I know it depends on the situation, but it's common, right? It's a typical thing you see in Florida homes.
Yeah, so the cracks we have when the stucco is put on, it's going to crack on the blocks, and there's always a little bit of settling and shifting. So sometimes the block's not going to crack. Now, if I go through and see the same crack on the other side, there may be concern. But what I tell everybody when we're doing our inspections, if I see a crack and it starts out as a hairline crack and then it goes up the block, but as it goes up the block, it starts to get wider. So it could go from a hairline to a quarter of an inch over about a 3-foot gap. At that point, I say there's a concern there because we might have a foundational issue, a footer starting to slip a little bit. A new home construction, normally within the first 5 years, you're going to get the little cracks around the windowsills. It's very common. You'll see some people call it alligatoring, where it just kind of runs up the block, the zipper up the stairs. As long as those cracks stay relatively the same, it's not an issue. It's just something that needs to be, they make an acrylic to seal those up when you repaint the house. If you do it right, you can't even tell they were there. But that's the biggest issue, is small to wide. That goes for anything. If you see a ceiling and the peak of a ceiling, and on one end you see almost nothing, and by the time it gets to the other end, you've got a 1/4 inch crack and tape pulling off, there's probably a problem somewhere with some foundation settlement or the truss settlement. But if you see tape or a crack that's the same all the way through in a vaulted ceiling, it's probably not an issue. It was the application wasn't done right, and that joint tape is right next to some heat, and it's gonna start to thin.
I'm glad you brought that up because that is the most common in the
I get
vaulted
that.
ceiling.
And I had a home the other day I showed, and as soon as we pulled up, you could see it in the front. You could see that alligatoring.
Yeah.
And so they're like, it brings your attention right to it. So it's good to know that, there's a way to
Yeah,
sell.
because a lot of people get scared when they see that. As soon as they see it, they get nervous. They think, because they hear about a lot of people hear about sinkholes in Florida all the time. So that's everybody's biggest fear, is a sinkhole. And I don't know of any down in this area. There's certain areas in Florida that are bad for it. But yeah, with a buyer, I usually try to, I don't know if you want to calm their nerves to say, hey, this is normal. I've seen it my whole life. Concrete does crack, but concrete should not crack uneven or like that. That's when you have your worries about things. But yeah, I hear it. Floridians, they go, oh yeah, that's common. My other house did it, the house before that. But people from up north, immediately that puts a concern, and they haven't even walked in the house and looked at it.
Well, what are some, in your experience, home maintenance tips that you can give to Florida homeowners to get the longevity, out of their house, with this AC, windows? I know the AC is most common on keeping maintenance on that, but any other main parts of the house that might be costly that you can kind of get the longevity out of it?
So the AC is top priority. I recommend, even in my home inspection reports, I have a paragraph there that, tells the buyer some of the things: changing the filters, how often they should change them. If you have pets, change it every 30 days. If you don't, kind of check it maybe every 60 to 90 days, because as that filter clogs up, it puts more stress on the blower motor of the air conditioner and brings down its life. And a service plan on that air conditioner. One, the service plan on the air conditioner, the biggest thing is if you don't have a service plan and your air conditioner breaks July 25th or even July 4th, the hottest days of the year, you call an AC company, they're not going to see you for 3, 4, 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you're on a service plan and you're paying X amount of dollars a year, your priority, you get a discount on the service call or a free service call. They'll usually show up within 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Some companies guarantee same day, no matter what.
I can attest to that.
You're paying.
I've been drenched in my own house for a couple of days. I wasn't prepared.
We all have our
the air conditioner, to me, that's the most important thing in Florida, just because it's hot and you're not going to get anybody to fix it quick. And if somebody does show up quick and you don't have a contractor or a contract with them, they're probably not a good AC company if they can get out that quick without you being under contract with them. Because the good ones are booked up. The bad ones are looking for work and they'll take it immediately. I always tell people never take the lowest, never take the highest, take the guy in the middle on any quote that you take. The other things are, we find in home inspections are just the common things: doors, maintaining the lock sets, keeping the screws tight, windows. Even though most people do not open their windows at all in Florida. Maybe a couple of months a year. The rest of the time, these windows are shut down. But when those windows sit, it's like anything else that sits. You've got springs or cables in the side there. If you're not moving those and it's not getting worked and up and down, they're going to freeze up, they're going to break, or corrode because it's aluminum, and aluminum still corrodes in Florida, especially us being near the saltier water. When we go to the inspection, there's some windows I can't even lift up. We grab those things, or we lift them up, we hear a pop. And it's one of the spring attachments on the left or the right that just popped, and now the window just dropped itself back down.
Yeah, when it doesn't stay up, I've had a couple of those where I'm showing a house and bam, my fingers get crushed because I'm sliding right down.
Yeah, and those are cheap fixes for the most part, probably less than $100 to have somebody come out, and it gets cheaper as more windows. But those are the biggest things. Those windows, you got to maintain them. The doors, the lock sets, anything else, the exterior of the home, if you've got wood, you've got to keep up with wood rot. You've got to keep up, some people can't get on their roof, but it's always a good idea, especially with a clay tile roof, like you were just talking, $100,000. Get a roofer out there about every year or two, or a home inspector, especially after a storm. I've done inspections here recently that they said nothing was wrong with their house, and I get up and it's missing a big, just, 5 or 6 shingles up there, and they need to buy an insurance policy, but they never went up there, they never checked. It's not leaking because of the underlay that they use, but the insurance company's not going to buy them. So now they have to go get a roofer out there in an emergency to hurry and fix it. So just visual checks of everything and maintaining it. But number one is the air conditioning.
I figured, yeah, especially being in Florida. Another common thing that I get asked is, there's I think 50-50 on homes that have gutters and don't have gutters. And you don't have to go into too much of detail into this, but how important are gutters for a home, and what do they alleviate? Because some people are like, oh, I don't need the gutters. I'm like, well, the water will eat away if it rolls off the roof at the side of your house, and you get those ditches there, Well,
what I will, in the short story for the gutters is no gutters, house slab on grade, foundational problems eventually, because it washes down, gets out below the slab and starts washing and undermining, what we call undermining. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't see it. There's a pool deck with that little drain tube. You'll actually get cracks in there, and it can start foundational issues under your pool slab and even some of your support beams that are around there. So I think gutters are very important to divert the water and get it away from the house. If for nothing else than that, even under grass will grow. Some of our grass will grow thicker, and you don't notice that you've washed out 4 or 5 inches. And then you've got critters. We've got lizards. I can't remember the one lizards that we have, the big ones. They'll start to burrow under that slab if they find a hole. If they find a small spot, they will go under that slab. Then you've got more undermining. So
I can't tell you how many you see under, if it rains a lot and they don't have gutters, usually you see the paint line, and 3 or 4 inches down, you see where all the slab is. It kind of ate away and all that. And people are like, oh, that looks concerning. I'm like, that's why you should have gutters.
I don't have any slab problems. My driveway, I'm going to have replaced because there's gutters on each side of it, and they I don't know who set it up, but they direct the water down. And so it's washed away like all the dirt underneath both sides of mine. And now it's like cracked.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
and that's my driveway. So I can only imagine if that happened to your foundation.
Yeah. I mean, your foundation's thicker than your driveway, but eventually, I mean, just think about the load that you're carrying from the roof down.
Yeah.
1 sheet of plywood weighs 60 pounds, 50 pounds. So that just kind of gives you an idea, plus the block and everything else. I mean, it's going to happen. It's not when it'll happen, but it's if it'll happen. It's when it'll happen, because it will. And then with your driveway, if the truck pulls up there and it pops and drops down.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I think the last thing we're going to ask you is like any advice you can give from your experience, being in the inspection industry and just being in the real estate industry in general. What advice can you give for home buyers in regards to the inspection side of things?
For a home buyer, the first time they look at a house, when you guys were showing them the house and they go and visit, I always tell them, take a notepad, make notes of things that you see while you're in there. We usually catch most things, but nobody's perfect. We never catch 100%. And if there's a concern they have about something, whether it's a crack in the tile, in the grout, if they see that, just to note it, because if it's a real minute, we might miss that, or if the customers throw rugs over it, or homeowners throw rugs over cracks to try to hide them, we'll try to lift rugs while we're in there. But that's the biggest thing. Is kind of look over the house, because I've had home buyers that have done 3 and 4 inspections, and we try to give them a little break, but it's still our time, and we don't lower our standards as we inspect the houses. So we want to make sure we give them 100% every time. So it could get costly if they're not looking at some of the small things. And I'm always available. Even I've had a lot of buyers call me, and we'll spend 20 minutes on the phone before the inspection, before they hire me, and they'll ask me about things: cracks in the ceilings, cracks in the floors, cracks in the walls or the stucco. And I'll tell them the same thing I told you guys. That way they can kind of make a decision: is this the house I really want? Or yes, it is. Then let's go ahead and hire AHS Home Inspection, or we're going to hire somebody else. But I just want the most important thing in the process of buying the house is they need to know what's there, instead of a lot of people get wild with everything. They see a beautiful pool, they see a beautiful back patio, and when they start to overlook some of the things, and then we come in and it's an older house, and I'm like, did you see the crack in the ceiling? We have a problem. And they're like, no, but we don't want the house in. So that could be a $300-$500 investment that we have to start all over again.
Yeah, and then I would have to say too, there's a reason why we have licensed professionals, that do this every day for a living. If you think you know something, you're not 100% sure, you've never been through it, call an inspector.
Yeah.
I know how people think that they're inspectors themselves and that they can evaluate themselves, but not when it comes to
brother's a builder up in Pennsylvania, and he's been building houses for 30 years. He's going to come down and inspect the house, and I've come in behind him. I think I've had maybe it was David or somebody, and I came in behind him, and I'm like, we've got problems in this house, like real problems.
That was me.
I'm only doing a 4-point inspection.
Family members are not allowed to help in the transaction.
Yeah, because I come in and they said, well, my brother inspected the house and said everything's good, but I have to come in because you do have to be state licensed to do the 4-point and wind bit. I come in, and I'm not that guy that's going to ignore it. I see a big crack in the wall as I'm doing a 4-point. I'll call David, I'll call you Dante, or whoever the agent I'm working with, and go, hey, we got a problem in here. I'm doing the 4-point, but I see something pretty major. You might, call the buyer and ask if they want to go ahead and hire me to do the full inspection.
All right, Terry. Well, thank you for being with us today. We appreciate everything you told us about, and I hope home buyers can get some good information from this.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope so. And they can. You've got the number. You can always refer us out, and I'm always free questions answered. Free answers to questions over the phone. It's not like they're plugging my time. So I want to make sure everybody makes a good decision.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir. All right. See ya.